Hey, what's going on, guys? So today I'll be giving you guys a deck profile on a Magician slash Odd Eyes Pendulum deck. But this one's going to be different because it's going to be basically the most budget you can get with this deck. Since I'll only be using cards that came in the Master of Pendulum Structure deck. So I actually did get free of the Master of Pendulum Structure deck last night, since there were cards in it that I already needed for my Ignite build I'm working on and my Infernoid build as well. And I just kind of find the whole build with Magicians and Odd Eyes, the whole Pendulum deck, kind of interesting because there's just so many different ways you can go about it. I actually find it to be just about as good as Pepe right now. When you throw in some of the more expensive cards like Luster Pendulum, Ignister, the Ignister Synchro, Odd Eyes Fusion, things like that. But even on a budget level, it's still a pretty solid Pendulum deck in my opinion. And it definitely just shows how far Pendulums have gone since they first came out in the Super Starter Arc V structure deck that had Time Gazer and Stargazer in them. So let's go ahead and get right into the deck profile. Starting off, we have the free Wisdom Eye Magician. This is probably the best Magician, considering you just put it on one of your Pendulum scales and you just destroy it if you have another Magician in the other Pendulum scale. That just get any other Magician from your deck and place it in that scale. So if you're missing like a certain scale that you need for your Pendulum summons, you can just destroy this and just add whatever Magician you need straight from the deck. So it's just a really solid card overall for setting up your scales. Then we have the free Oath Dragon Magician. This is used as a recycler card. You can use its Pendulum effect to add a Magician or Odd Eyes Pendulum monster from your extra deck back to your hand. And then when it's normal or special summoned, you can actually target a Magician or Odd Eyes monster in your graveyard and add it back to your hand. So it's really good for just making sure that you don't run out of resources and you can get to those combo cards that you've already used previously in the game. Then we have the free Dragon Pit Magician. Even though it is a vanilla, it's still very useful for the fact that it is a Magician and a skill 8. And then with its Pendulum effect, you can discard a Pendulum card from your hand to destroy one spell or trap card on the field. So it's good for getting rid of back row and also for popping scales. Then we have the free Dragon Pulse Magician. This is a card you'd probably play at 1 or 2 if you have a regular Magician build. But it's good at free with the structure deck, considering it is a 1 scale, and you can also use it in a similar fashion as Dragon Pit, except you discard a Pendulum to pop a monster instead with its Pendulum effect. Then we have the free Performapal Skull Crobat Joker. I absolutely love the fact that it has Crobat in the name, since that's one of my favorite all-time Pokemon. But yeah, it's a scale 8, which is pretty good for this deck, of course. And then when it's normal summon, you can add a Magician, Performapal, or Odd Eyes monster from your deck to your hand. So it's just basically a Stratos for the deck. You can use it to add an Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon to go for OTKs. You can use it to add a scale. Pretty much do whatever you want. The only downside is if you do use it as a scale, which you don't do that often, you're restricted to only Pendulum summoning Magician, Odd Eyes, and Performapal monsters, sadly. Then we have the free Odd Eyes Rebellion, or Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. This is, again, another card you'd probably maybe play at 2 if you're playing a regular Magician build, but since you're restricted just to the structure deck, you have room to play free. It's really good mostly as a monster because it's level 7, and you also use it for its OTK potential, since it does double damage on monsters at battles. And then you can use it if you're kind of not really getting a good start and you just need to add a certain scale. It's a bit slow since it happens at the end phase, but you can add any scale with it, so it's still pretty solid for that effect. Then we have the 2 Noble Dragon Magician. This is your tuner for the deck. The thing to keep in mind with this is if you Synchro Summon with it and you don't like the rest of the Synchro monsters you use aren't Odd Eyes monsters, then it goes to the bottom of the deck, which kind of sucks. But it still is a level 3 tuner you can use for Odd Eyes Meteor Dragon, which came in the structure deck, or any other Dragon Synchro monster. And then if it's in your graveyard, you can target a level 7 or higher Odd Eyes monster you control. You reduce its level by 3 and then special summon this. So it combos off really well with Pendulum Dragon, to where you can reduce it down to 4, special summon this, and then have an instant Meteor Burst Dragon play. Then we have the 1 Stargazer and 1 Time Gazer Magician that I previously mentioned. These cards obviously aren't nearly as good compared to the other Magicians that we have now, but they're still good, at least in the aspects of working with just a structure deck because they're scale 1 and scale 8. Time Gazer isn't too bad because it prevents the opponent from using traps when you attack with Pendulum monsters, and then Time Gazer prevents spells from being activated. So they're not terrible, but they're just not as optimal with the new Magicians that are out. Then we have the 1 Performance Power Trump Witch. It's got a pretty cool pendulum effect to where you can use it as a polymerization when it's in a scale. You can fusion summon using monsters you control for the fusion materials, and then you can actually tribute it as a monster to add a polymerization from your deck to your hand. So for a pendulum deck like this, it's basically like a Blaze Man that can also act as a polymerization on its own, which is pretty cool. Then we have the 2 Chaos Hunter to round out the monsters. It's good because it's level 7. It absolutely wrecks the Cosmo matchup. You can Pendulum Summon it to go for your ranked 7 plays with Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon. And then it's also got a neat effect to where you can Special Summon it from the hand by discarding a card when your opponent Special Summons a monster, so you can really use it to disrupt your opponent's plays. So that is it for the monsters. Now on the spells. So starting off, we have the free Pendulum Call. Probably the most broken card in the deck for sure. With its effect, you can discard 1 card, add 2 Magician Pendulum monsters from your deck to your hand, so you immediately set up your scales. And then until the end of your opponent's next turn, your Magician Pendulum scales cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects. Of course, the downside being you can't activate it if you've already activated a Magician Pendulum effect that turn, and you can only use 1 Pendulum Call per turn. But easily, it's the most busted card in the deck, considering it just gets you everything you need just by discarding 1 card, and then it also protects your scales. Then we have the 2 Sky Iris and the 1 Terraforming. Sky Iris is obviously better in kind of the more expensive Magician build where you play Odd Eyes Fusion and like Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon, but still pretty decent even with this very low budget build. Since it protects your I believe it protects your Odd Eyes, Magician, and Perform Pow scales from being targeted by card effects. And then you can use its upper effect to destroy 1 card you control to add an Odd Eyes monster from your deck to your hand, or an Odd Eyes card actually. As I said, you can use it to add Odd Eyes Fusion if you're playing that build, or in this case you can add Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. And then I play the 1 Terraforming just to get the Sky Iris. Then we have the 2 MST main deck. Since the structure deck did come with MST, I of course side the 3rd one, just because I have the Dragon Pit Magician that can also get rid of back row as well. Then we have the 1 Polymerization, since I have the 1 Performer Power Pendulum that can search for it. The 1 Sacred Sword of 7 stars. Probably not something you would play in a normal Magician build because you don't like banishing your level 7s. But in this build, since I run so many level 7s, including Chaos Hunter, there's a lot of times where I can deal with banishing one of them to get 2 more cards. So it's a pretty decent card overall. Then to round out the spells, we have the 1 Summoner's Art. Even in a regular Magician build, you really would only run this at 1 at most, just because you only have the 1 target with the free Dragon Pit Magicians. So now to round it out with the traps. Starting off, we have the 2 Tractor's Trap Hole Nightmare. Unfortunately, it's not as good as it was last format, but still a pretty okay card and a nice reprint for the structure deck. Good for effect negation and just getting rid of a special summon monster. Then we have the 1 Eradicator. You have 5 main deck targets with this, with the 2 Chaos Hunter and the free Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. It's really good to use with Odd Eyes Pendulum since it'll just go on top of the extra deck when you tribute it. And then of course it's just really good because you get rid of just a bunch of your opponent's spells and traps for 3 turns, which is really powerful. And then finally we have the 1 Torrential Tribute. So that's it for the main deck. Total of 40 cards. It was 25 monsters, 11 spells, and 4 traps. Now on to the extra deck. So starting off, we have the free Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon that came in the structure deck. It's actually a generic rank 7, which is pretty cool. It's got a Utopia-based effect to where you can negate the attack of any monster, and then if you do, you can special summon an Odd Eyes monster from your graveyard. And then if it is sent to the graveyard as an Xyz summon monster, you can actually special summon an Odd Eyes monster from your extra deck. So I think it's Accept Itself, yeah. So you can special summon like Meteor Burst Dragon, you can special summon Vortex Dragon if you have that. You can even special summon the other Odd Eyes Xyz that is also a Pendulum monster as well. So there's a lot of cool things you can do with Absolute Dragon. Then we have the free Meteor Burst Dragon. This is a generic level 7 synchro. When it's special summoned, you can special summon a Pendulum monster from your Pendulum zone, and then Meteor Burst can't attack that turn. Then also, it restricts your opponent from activating monster effects during the battle phase, which is pretty cool. Then to round out the extra deck, we have the free Rune Eyes Pendulum Dragon. This you need to fusion summon using an Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon and then one Spellcaster monster. So if you use a Pendulum summon monster, the Pendulum to fusion summon this, it actually is unaffected by card effects for the turn. And then depending on the level of the Spellcaster monster you use to fusion summon this, it gains the following effects. If the level is 4 or lower, it gets 2 attacks during the battle phase, but if it's 5 or higher, it gets 3 attacks. So obviously it's really good for going in for OTK, since it can be unaffected by card effects, and then it can potentially get up to 3 attacks as well with 3,000 attack. So now to round out with the side deck, which of course is going to be a lot different than any of my other side decks you've seen from me, since I'm using only cards from the structure deck. So starting off, we have the free Fencing Fire Ferret. This is here just because it's generic monster removal. When it's destroyed, you can destroy a monster your opponent controls and then burn them for 500 life. Then we have the third Chaos Hunter in the side. The free Forbidden Dress to protect our monsters from destruction and also to use it as a battle trap. Then we have the free Pendulum Shift. It's really good. It's actually a pretty decent card, even outside of this context against Pendulum matchups, because you can target any one of the scales on the field, and you can change the scale from anywhere to 1 to 10. So you can completely mess up your opponent's Pendulum play for a turn, and you can even kind of fix your own scales to go for Pendulum summons on your turn as well. So it's a pretty versatile card for that reason. Then we have the free Scapegoat to protect from OTKs. You can also use this on your opponent's end phase to summon the 4 level 1 Scapegoat tokens, and you actually can synchro summon using the tuner in the deck and then the 4 Scapegoat tokens to make Meteor Burst or any other level 7 dragon synchro. Then we have the third MST and finally the third Trap Trick Shuffle Nightmare to round out the side deck. So that is it for the deck profile on the very low budget Odd Eyes Pendulum Magician Structure deck. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And when it comes to ads, don't skip it, just click it. And I'll catch you guys next time.